Jazzcast Pros.
Hey,
Hi, we're doing it.
we're doing the thing.
Woohoo!
This is our pilot episode. We're super stoked to be here and do this thing because, we've never done this before, so it's exciting.
Exciting and new and nerve-wracking and all the big emotions, hey?
Yeah, that
Brings all the things up.
It does. So we're here for it, aren't we?
Yeah, totally.
What if you could rewrite your story and resolve issues at their root by clearing energetic blocks and create a life that truly lights you up?
If you're a woman seeking deeper fulfillment, healing and clarity, you've discovered the podcast to open you up to a whole new world, one that perhaps you never even knew existed.
Welcome to The Spiritual Shortcut, the podcast to help you realize that you are in fact your own healer and that you can learn to release the invisible anchors that might have been holding you back. Hi, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Kristy, and together we are the two psychic nobodies.
Which is kind of ironic because we've spent years becoming psychic somebodies.
Yep, we're both shamanic practitioners, like spiritual janitors for your soul.
Our mission, now we've chosen to accept it, is to raise the consciousness of humanity.
No pressure or anything, hey?
We're all about exploring spiritual shortcuts, like clearing blocks without needing 17 meditation apps or a suitcase full of crystals.
And reconnecting you with your true self. No fluff, but just plenty of heart, and maybe a bad joke here and there.
Welcome to the Spiritual Shortcut. Where should we start? Should we start with our name?
I mean, that's a nice rounded place to start, and it's sort of the thing that kicked a lot of this stuff off, so good idea.
Yeah, so Two Psychic Nobodies, that name, the name of our business rather than the name of the actual podcast, because that kind of speaks for itself.
It really does, yeah.
Yeah, Two Psychic Nobodies. Well, initially I dreamt it. That was cool. But it's also one of those things where as you become, or as I have become more tapped into my psychic abilities, I can be very clairaudient. So I hear things. And sometimes things get yelled at me when I'm sleeping and I wake up and go, what?
Yep.
This name was one of those things. I'm like, what? Two Psychic Nobodies? What? What does it mean?
Yeah. It means nothing and nobody, really.
Right. That's it. Yeah, it's that kind of nod to our etheric existence and state and our eternal beingness.
Plus it looks cool written the way that we've written it.
I like it like that too. Yeah. And there are two of us, so that's handy, super handy. Very practical note.
Very.
It's a great indication of what we do. We are both shamanic practitioners and we use our psychic ability, which is our intuition. So we all have it. We're not trying to make great claims about things that we do that no one else can do in the planet or anything like that. It's just stuff that we know we have, and we have fine-tuned it, practiced it, practiced a lot together. And then when we're working with clients and when we've worked together, this is what comes up, isn't it? We have these intuitive hits and then we dig down deep underneath.
Yeah. And so for the listeners at home, Amanda, would you say that your clairaudience is one of your stronger senses?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yep. Cool.
And because I know that you're visual, right?
Yeah. All of my clairs are open, but I'm a seer. That's what I do. That and, my knowing is also pretty strong.
Mm-hmm.
But, I can taste things. I feel things in my hand. My body is my
barometer.
Well, it is. I was going to say my tool, but it's barometer is a heaps better word, because that's where I feel things in it. So when I'm working with clients, I'm very much tapped into my own, what's this in my left foot and blah, blah, blah. And that's how spirit talks to me. So
yeah. And I smell things too.
Yeah, it's bizarre, isn't it?
Weird. So weird.
Yeah, that and the tasting I think out of all of them has been the one that has been trickiest for me to integrate into my 3D life.
Yeah, right. I don't get taste so much as like a funny taste in my mouth. So it's not like taste, like I have smells and I'll be like, oh, I smell that thing. What does it mean? Whereas a taste will be like, it's like, when you have an emotion and you salivate differently, like you have a taste for crying and a taste for anger and things like that. I might be talking to something and you're sitting there, people are sitting there going, we have no idea what she's talking about. Maybe that's just my Claire coming through. I thought everybody had it. Oh my God, I've just realized that.
Yeah. That's so funny. It's unique in I think these sorts of abilities are unique in their profile, individual to individual, but there's obviously crossover stuff. But in saying that, now that we're talking about the name, like, do you want to maybe shed some light on the difference between, what the general consensus on a psychic would be as opposed to like a shamanic practitioner?
Yeah, that's great to get some clarity around that actually, because we do use our intuition, which is our psychic abilities, and we do tap into our guides who are what's feeding us psychically, right? You could say.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the difference is that then we use that as information and we pick it apart and unweave the thread that people have set up in their lives, which is created by beliefs, ancestral stories, the way they were brought up. There's so many times where people just think it's normal. Like I thought tasting emotions was normal until about 30 seconds ago.
I was today years old.
Yeah, that's it. And it's like, hey, actually not so much. That's not normal at all.
Yeah.
Let's unpick and unpack where it comes from, whether it's of value in your life any longer, and if it's not serving you, what we can change about it.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, we use the psychic messages and information and we build upon them. So that is the very, very, very start of what we do.
Beautiful.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Oh, golly. That's awesome. Yeah. And so what then, obviously you've been seeing clients for a long time. I've been seeing clients for a substantial amount of time now. And then obviously we've come together. So.
Well, we've done our 500-hour training. We worked out, didn't we?
Yes, we did work that out.
Our initiation.
Yeah, together,
Yeah. We figured out that over the past 8 months, was it? We've done approximately 500 hours between us
Which
together.
is an astronomical amount of time, and I don't even know how we've done it, being busy mums and with work and all the things in the background going on. But It's amazing how when you want something bad enough, you do tend to make the time for it. So
it just happens. That's what's happened. That's what's brought us together, hasn't it? We've had similar experiences, and then we've known about each other's backgrounds from a training perspective, and we reached out to each other and asked, can we work together? Can we do this together? What can we figure out on only a personal level? I say only, but, it's profound. And the shifts that we've experienced in that period of time have been profound.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's where it came from, and that speaks to who we are and why we're here, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
We've had that energy about us for most of our lives, where we've been seeking answers, we've been looking for people and, a lot of times externally, and now what we've learned to do is to turn it internally and realize that all the answers are within, and everything in your external world is merely, simply, only,
yes,
and profoundly, of what's inside that needs to change.
We're laughing because it sounds like a really simple thing to say, and you read all the books and you watch all the documentaries and you do all the trainings, and I think it's something that you truly, like for me, I know that it's to embody that has been such a journey, it sort of drops in naturally to me when something happens and I go, oh, there's a bit of a poke there, or there's a bit of a, a niggle there. Like, what have I got to look at within myself to shift that? And I guess, in saying that, the whole world is set up to have you believe generally that the answers are outside of yourself. So to retrain yourself and reparent yourself to do those things is quite a remarkable feat. But, it's like that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. It's like once you decide that's what you want to do, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, the path opens up, and it's just a matter of one foot in front of the other and figuring out what's next. Like, do I need to look here? Do I need to do this course? Do I need to sit in solitude? Do I need to, the answers come in varying ways. Like for me, I get a lot of insight through music because I'm a massive music buff. So, and you're a muso too. It's like sometimes it's not about signing up for the next course. Sometimes it's just about sitting and having a cup of tea and pondering your thoughts for a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
From a perspective of why we're doing this, we've got our personal reasons and we've got our personal backgrounds. And I have lived a life where it's been psychology based since I was in my teens.
Yeah.
Even at high school at 17, I did study psychology. So, I've always been really interested in the way the mind works and what we're here for. And then the woo-woo side of it has been with me all my life as well. When I was a child, I used to astral travel.
Yeah, that's right. I remember you telling me that.
And it was a conscious effort. I saw it on TV or something like that, and I was like, oh, that looks cool. I'm going to try that tonight. And I went to bed and I figured out a way that I was going to practice it and imagine myself up floating in the ceiling and all that kind of thing. And lo and behold, suddenly I was up there looking down, and it's like, cool. Yep. Tick. Did that.
Awesome. Yeah.
GIO protects the conversations that begin in your precious sunken living room. A place of questionable jokes and endless bickies and cheese. If it's precious to you, protect it with us. Flexible levels of cover available with GIO Home Insurance. Protect precious. Visit gio.com.au. Limits and exclusions apply. Before buying insurance issued by GIO, read the PDS and consider whether it's right for you. Go online for a copy. TMD also available.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. And I actually believed that I would one day be able to levitate and I would be able to walk through walls.
Yeah, yes. I remember you mentioning that.
Come to fruition, but
not yet.
But as a child, I had an understanding that we are particles moving around, and that on some level I should be able to figure out how to separate them enough to pass through a physical object. So I guess, I was never not going to do this work.
That's very true. Born for it, hey?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and knowing your history, I can understand if that's where you've come from, why hypnotherapy and psychology was the next best thing. Do you know what I mean? To kind of open you up more into that space.
Yeah, yeah.
Like in a grounded way.
Right, a formal education behind the science of it and how it works. So, you're not that much different. You've had other trainings.
Yes.
Before we met, we crossed paths down the track. It wasn't a new thing.
No. Like I have memories, same thing, in my bedroom as a child of visitations and things, and I had kind of buried them mentally, deep in that subconscious until I had a spontaneous awakening probably. And I mean, it's not really, like in the grand scheme of things, not really that long ago, sort of 8 to 10 years ago. And it's been full on, flat out, hardcore since then, really. I mean, I've got a early childhood background. So, I've forever been around children and played and interacted at that level of, it's not even, I don't even know how to put words around it. It's a different kind of interaction meeting a child at their level, and it's interesting because a lot of the work that you and I do with clients is that inner child work, that inner teen work. So no surprises there.
Yeah.
And then went off and learnt all about the subconscious mind and, Dr. Bruce Lipton's work and everything there with, and became a QEC coach. So very much learning about how the body stores emotions and trauma. And I was seeing clients doing that sort of work and then just felt the call to do, oh gosh, I want to say more, but it's just like, again, like that natural flow on to the next step.
Yeah, it's more of the same.
Absolutely. Yeah. Went off and did all my shamanic traineeship. And that's been the thing for me where I've gone, this is why my life has gone the way that it has. Like all of a sudden, everything started to make sense to me, and I think a lot of us doing this work that are coming through now in these sorts of generations, like I'm in my 40s, it's very much about, what was I going to say? I can't even remember what I was going to say now.
I might be psychic, but I can't always read your mind.
I know. No, it was about the wounded healer archetype.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, you look back at your life and it's like, that's why this fell apart and that's why that went pear-shaped. And it's like, it's a different space to hold as a practitioner when you've walked a very similar path, I think. And again, it's all about that embodied energy. So, yeah, amazing. And not uncommon, for those of us who are sitting in the practitioner chair.
Right. That's it. And, like I think I mentioned the word initiation before.
Oh, yeah.
I very much feel like we've both been through that process and always for a reason. I can quite comfortably look back at things that I've learned and say, yep, I know why I've been there because this is what I've learned. And I've had to experience that in order to have that lesson today.
Yeah.
So, my awakening was probably just shy of 6 years ago.
Yep.
So very much a total freak out.
That's a nice way to put it, right? It's a nice way to put it.
Yeah. But I also speak to, and it makes total sense that we both ended up doing shamanic training because shamanism is about walking that path, going through the fire. And, I get that people are born into it, but I feel we were born into it too.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? You never really know, we're working with past lives and future lives. It's like very reminiscent of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I will say, obviously lots of different kinds of initiations as well. But for me, many, many, many fear initiations to the point of, like so many, I don't think I personally realized how much fear I was holding and how much it was ruling my life. And I can say that from, in a place of perspective now, but like looking back, it's incredible how unaware of certain things we are of ourselves and where we're holding them in our body and, how we look at things and the lenses that we put over ourselves. And again, it's all for that higher purpose. But yeah, fear's been a big one for me, especially as a seer. I think Hollywood has done a really great job of this painting the spirit world in a particular way. And it doesn't, one good scary movie and it's like, holy moly.
Yeah, that's it.
What am I opening up to,
These things creeping around in my bedroom at night.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's interesting. And grasping that, like finding courage.
Yeah.
Learning courage. How do you learn courage? You don't learn it by, here you go, here's a box of courage.
Awesome. That would have been easier, right?
Oh, yeah.
But I so would not have learnt the lesson. And there's no way that, I'd have the opportunity of doing something like this. Like it wouldn't have even showed up on my radar. So
yeah. That's it. Absolutely the same.
Yeah.
So that feels like a good segue into why we're working together.
Yeah.
Like we've both come through this kind of thing and, lives, decades of these lessons. And I feel like we had to get a certain distance along the path before we actually met, because then we came together at a certain point where we were both ready to work together, and on what level was just a matter of time we took to figure out, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I'd like to speak, or ask you to speak to why we're doing this together, why we're doing this work at this point in time.
I mean, we could do it separately, and we have done versions of this separately. I, hand on my heart, honestly believe that this new energy and frequency that we're moving into, this new world that we're creating, all of us collectively, collaboration is very much key, and I think as humans, a lot of us have that mindset that we don't play well together. And I definitely have harbored some of those feelings and emotions in the past before. I think a lot of us have got woundings from previous friendships and relationships and, past lives and whatever, where we then have the mentality of, that lone wolf, that solo sailor, and I'll just do it myself kind of thing and, have control over everything. But when you open up to the space of everything is a reflection, it's indicative of, well, we still have something to learn there, if it feels prickly. So I think collaboration is key. Moving forward, I think we're probably going to be seeing a lot more of it than what we have done in the past. And what you and I have learnt through, hours and hours and hours of work together is that we actually really do work well together. Your toolkit very much complements mine and mine complements yours. You're very much the wordsmith of the two of us, and have the ability to craft mundane into beautiful poetry. I really struggle with a bit of that, but you're welcome. And for me, it's all about that vision, and together, I think it's a completely different experience for the individual that's sitting in the client seat, as opposed to what we might have been able to offer separately.
And I want to say, why not? I really enjoy it.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? And, and that frequency of play, like we were just talking about, working with children, like one of the things that I now do most in my life is laugh. And I love other people's company. And if I can do this work, which is my soul's work, with a friend who has a very similar mindset, like, why not? Why wouldn't I? Why would I say no to that?
Sense of humour.
Yeah. No. Yeah, gets weird, but that's yeah. I think too, the other thing, like a lot of people think that this work has to be heavy all the time. And some of the best feedback I've had from clients is, you've got the ability, Kristy, to take something that's hard to move and shed light on it, and that includes having a laugh, and making things less awkward. Things are only awkward if you make it awkward,
and sometimes you get stuck in it when you're really feeling the heaviness of it. And when we've worked together, honestly, sometimes we just crack a joke, the most ridiculous, stupid things, and suddenly we're laughing, and then suddenly one of us will say something else and we're like, oh my God, that's it.
That's it. Yeah, that's it, right? My guides are pretty cheeky. They like to bring in a bad dad joke occasionally.
Yeah, yeah.
I say occasionally, it's frequent.
It's all the time.
But it's, and that's the thing. It's also, we're both working to our strengths, and so there's plenty of things, like I'm not particularly IT savvy and you're better at that. And,
marginally, but yeah, I'm enjoying it. And that's the thing, like I think what we have to offer is augmented by the fact that we're really just having a great time.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, bring in that energy of play always.
Yeah. And we know statistically, and studies and whatever have shown that we learn more through play. I think the number of repetitions you have to go through if you're just rote learning something is like 100 or 80 or like a really high number versus, it might be 20, I don't know. Versus if you're doing it, I'm like going, well, I'm just all the numbers here.
Yeah.
This is four. If you're playing, it takes 4 repetitions.
Yeah. Well, kids do it so naturally, right? That's how they learn.
Yeah.
And for some reason, we all think that, we hit a certain age and that's not important anymore. And being at that level with kids, whether it be in a childcare environment or with my own children, it's like they're your greatest teachers, especially your own biological children, it's like, and in that space of like laughter and light and all the amazing, beautiful things that kids can bring in, it's just like, yeah.
Well, thank you, Kristy.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you.
And cue outro. Thank you so much for tuning in to the latest episode of The Spiritual Shortcut.
We'll be back on the first and third Sunday of each month to unpack, demystify, and occasionally make fun of all things spiritual.
Starting with ourselves.
Of course.
Don't forget, those life blocks you've been tripping over are just poorly disguised stepping stones.
We'll support you to laugh, leap, and maybe even do a little victory dance over them. See you soon.